What's up, everybody? I'm a little bit late, but we're back with another episode of Film the Police, going over corrupt over things that corrupt politicians and things that the corrupt police are doing. So today we're going to talk about a lawsuit that was recently filed by a commander. I really wanted to stick totally to the LAPD today, but Karen Bass can't help herself. Karen Bass decided to do some more Karen Bass things. So because of that, we're going to have to talk about the Karen Bass things that are going on. So first off, I want to start off with Commander. Let me pull this up. The lawsuit that was just filed, I think about 2 weeks ago, from Commander, what is her name here? Natalie Cortez. Let me adjust the screen. So she filed a lawsuit because she claims that there was a situation where there was another officer who was filing a whistleblower sort of lawsuit, or complained that the LAPD command staff was hiding information from the LAPD commission. Actually, worse than that, that the LAPD command staff was lying to the LAPD commission. The LAPD commission, of course, is our civilian oversight committee, supposed to represent us in holding the police accountable. And so when you have the command staff lying to the commission, and they were lying specifically in this case about body-worn video, body cameras. I think his name is Johnny Smith. He alleged that officers were not activating their body cameras, and there was a widespread problem, and that command staff was lying about that to the LAPD commission, right? And so there was a whole thing with that. And so Natalie Cortez, they believed the LAPD command staff was going to side with the Johnny Smith and tell that command staff was hiding information from the LAPD commission. But worse than that, Natalie Cortez also adjudicated some use of force complaints, specifically 2020 protests where there were use of force. And apparently Natalie Cortez sustained complaints. And because of that, command staff got upset. Because of that, the LAPD union got upset. So let's go over this lawsuit that was filed. I don't know why that, quite honestly, LA Times hasn't focused on this at all. It seems like it's sort of a big deal, but I'm not exactly the biggest fan of the LA Times. So anyway, in the lawsuit, it says here, claimant has timely filed a government claim within 6 months of the acts of retaliation. So claimant is employed by the LAPD as a sworn peace officer. Shortly after their promotion to commander, the LAPD learned that Captain Johnny Smith had filed a government claim for damages against the city. In the government claim, Captain Smith alleged, among other things, that the LAPD officers were regularly failing to activate their body-worn video, right? And that the LAPD was providing false and misleading information to the LAPD commission concerning officers' compliance with body-worn video policies. So look what they're saying there. Saying that they provided false and misleading information to the commission. That's a problem, guys. I'll tell you. That's a problem. And I think that's a problem today, right now. I think we saw a touch of that last week in the commission meeting. I felt like the commissioners confronted the chief about him being at a minimum evasive or worse. And so we have here, again, Johnny Smith was alleging that they were hiding information, right? Let's continue on with this. Based on Captain Smith's government claim, high-ranking individuals in the LAPD, including Chief of Police Michael Moore and Director of Constitutional Policing and Policy Liz Rhodes, formed the belief that claimant, which is Natalie Cortez, commander, would support Captain Smith in his imminent civil action against the department In fact, in or around May 2020, when Johnny Smith complained to director Liz Rhodes. Liz Rhodes, she's a special piece of shit. We'll get into her in a minute. When Captain Smith complained to director Liz Rhodes about LAPD officers' routine failure to activate their body-worn cameras, claimant was present and witnessed Rhodes' complete dismissiveness towards Smith's complaints. I totally believe this, guys. If you know Liz Rhodes, totally believe it. So Liz Rhodes is a person. If you've been following me for a while, you know this story. There's a situation in Hollywood where somebody stepped on. They had a guy handcuffed and his legs bound. They had him on the ground, and a cop stepped on his face. Clear as day, cop stepped on his face. 17 seconds later, you can hear on the video that I was provided to me from two separate angles from people in the crowd that the guy they had handcuffed complained about him having his face stepped on. Well, anyway, Liz Rhodes told me that no, the video, they didn't make any contact with the guy's face, and he never complained about having his face stepped on. I don't feel like getting into all of that. It'll be a huge distraction. If you go onto my website, filmthepolicela.com, you go under the investigations tab, and it's an article that I wrote. It's very in-depth. It's thousands of words. It's fully documented and stuff. You can see for yourself how corrupt and full of shit Liz Rhodes is. So I totally believe what they're talking about here. What Natalie Cortez is talking about here with Liz Rhodes. That's a very Liz Rhodes thing to do, to be dismissive, because she was basically, she ran, from what I understand, is she's no longer there. From what I understand, she's essentially been fired, but she was allowed to leave with grace. Same shit that happened with Michael Moore. He was fired, but they made it look like he just, resigned with grace. And quite honestly, I don't understand why she's been there for so long. So she ran Office of Constitutional Policing and Policy. She was the director, and she was the highest ranking civilian employee in the LAPD. And she's essentially there. I believe it was created by the consent decree, and it was there to essentially just look over the LAPD. But what she did is she was just basically Michael Moore's fuck girl, just covering up all his misconduct that he committed. And Michael Moore definitely committed a lot of it. What's disheartening now is the new chief, McConnell, is worse. This guy's worse. So let's get back on with this. So anyway, claimant reasonably believed that the LAPD command officers' false reports and other documentation that officers were complying with body-worn video policies, some of which was provided to the LAPD Commission, constituted a violation of California Penal Code Section 115, other state and federal statutes related to falsification of official documents. So this, Natalie Cortez is saying here that you're talking about falsified documents. This isn't just, lying, but they're creating documents, falsifying documents to submit to our Civilian Oversight Committee about how LAPD officers are lying to the commission. All right. And these are serious accusations. And it's more than just that. Let me see if we find the other parts of it. Then in August 2021, claimant was tasked with adjudicating personnel complaint related to LAPD officers' use of force on protesters during a demonstration that took place in the summer of 2020. Claimant, Natalie Cortez, disclosed in her adjudication that multiple officers had used excessive force against the protesters. Officers had unlawfully used 40 millimeter beanbag rounds on protesters that posed no risk of harm, and claimant disciplined the officers as a result of the use of force. Then Cortez also disclosed that an LAPD command staff member who was the incident commander during the protest failed to exercise proper command and control over the incident. So she's not just saying that they committed this sort of misconduct with the excessive force, but that the incident commander didn't take proper control of the situation. So she made that claim against them, and she was retaliated against. It says here, in retaliation for claimant's disclosures as set forth above, in and around September 2021, Chief Moore caused claimant to be issued a comment card for a minor frivolous matter that was placed in her personnel file and was impacted and will continue to impact her ability to advance and or promote in the department. So yeah, listen, she faced retaliation, all right? It seems to me that she's saying that she was calling out this misconduct, whether it be the lying by command staff to the LAPD commission, and also calling out the incident commanders at the scene for allowing the officers to basically mollywop the shit out of all the protesters, nonstop. And that's really what happened back then. I remember all that shit. So anyway, so she's filing a lawsuit against the city for retaliation. From my understanding, this will not be the last one. There is an issue right now at the LAPD where you essentially can't get any complaints sustained. I have high-ranking people in LAPD saying, yeah, we file complaints against cops ourselves. We can't get them sustained. Nothing's getting sustained because Chief McDonald is run by the LAPPL, the police union. Essentially, police union, anytime somebody wants to sustain a complaint, the LAPPL goes to Chief McDonald's office. And apparently they just show up unannounced. They just like, fuck it. We're coming in here, like the mafia. Hey, we're going to have a meeting with you. Let's go in here and talk to McDonald. McDonald comes out and says, yeah, we're not sustaining those complaints because the LAPPL says so, because the police union says so. And it's sort of outrageous. It's not sort of outrageous. It's very outrageous. So that's what's going on with that. And quite honestly, you have to understand, LAPPL is full of a bunch of degenerates, right? So you have the board of directors of the LAPPL, 5 people that run it. And I've talked about Ralph Campos before. He's just a special piece of shit. And actually, let's talk about this for a second. So Ralph Campos, I was talking to a lawyer last year. A lawyer reached out to me and said, the police union director, one of the 5 directors, Ralph Campos is one of them. You have Jamie McBride and Doretta Sandoz and Craig Lally, and they run the LAPD, but they also run the mayor's office too. So in a lot of ways, they just these 5 degenerates run the city. They run the city. Whatever they say that they want from the mayor's going to give them because the mayor wants their endorsement for re-election. The mayor's going to get it. And the mayor said, hey, you know what? I don't want any scandals coming out of the LAPD. That doesn't mean like, hey, you know what? Don't commit scandals. It means I don't want any investigations that are going to make the news. Keep that shit quiet. Try to just, gloss over things. But we don't need any scandals. She doesn't need a scandal going to re-election. She's got enough things going on. She's just full of scandals as it is. So because of that, Chief McDonald's is like, I'm not gonna hold any cops accountable. You guys can do whatever the fuck you want. And the cops out there, they know it. I see the way that they act right now. They're doing whatever the fuck they want again. Something I haven't seen in a couple of years. So, like I said, we have the police union who's controlling the LAPD, Ralph Campos, not only the director of the LAPPL, but he's also the treasurer. And he's the one who's self-dealing, right? So he has his own private security company called Green Knight Security, own private security company. And he gives contracts from the union to his security company, and he lies about it. He's been a few weeks ago, or maybe at this point, probably a month or 2 ago, they were at a delegate meeting and they were lying. They're like, nah, he doesn't get any money off of this. And I'm like, he's lying. This is on your Form 990s. This is your tax form. Shows, yes, you have a contract. You got $250,000 from the police union to your security company. So talking about Green Knight Security, I had a lawyer reach out to me and said, hey, we're suing Green Knight Security because one of their guards sexually assaulted my client. One of Ralph Campos's guards at Green Knight Security, he alleges, sexually assaulted his client. And apparently they deposed Campos and they deposed the business partner, Stephen O'Neill. Stephen O'Neill is an ex-cop who got fired because he got arrested and convicted of a felony for driving around drunk, and they were shooting guns out of the car. Wonderful behavior from cops, right? So this is his business partner, this degenerate. And they found out about the sexual assault of the guard, and so they fired him. Rightfully so, right? It's a bare minimum, you know. Our employee sexually assaulted this person, we're going to fire him. But lo and behold, a few months later, they brought him back. They brought this security guard back. He committed sexual assault, and he didn't even have a guard's license. He wasn't even licensed. And they're saying, well, he was wearing a suit because he's wearing a suit, that means he doesn't have to have a fucking license. Bullshit. See, this is a cop that just lies, who has a cruddy-ass company that lies. And they brought him back. Why did they bring him back? Why? They brought him back so they can claim him for PPP money, so they can get an extra $10,000 or whatever. They brought him back. This guy who committed sexual assault against somebody who was unlicensed. They fired him. They brought him back so they can get a couple $1,000s more. What kind of piece of shit is that? What kind of piece of shit is that? That guy is running this city. Help him and his 4 other colleagues at the LAPPL run this place. That type of degenerate. They control Chief McDonald. They control Karen Bass. You think Jamie McBride he's even worse. And then you had Craig Lally, he's on like a no contact order. He's not allowed to make contact with the public. These are the people that are running the LAPD, that are running the mayor's office. And because of that, helping to fund our city, where they're giving the money to, huge increases in LAPD funding, which, listen, when we increase LAPD funding, this is not going to more cops. There's going to be less cops next year than there are this year. When we increase the funding, it's just going to more money for existing cops. Pay raises. That's it. These guys come next year after overtime are probably going to be averaging somewhere around like $150,000 a year, while the city is going to hell. And the city is going to hell. Right? I talk about this all the time, but let's do this again. Let's look at how street services are so fucked. Okay. And I was walking last night and somebody pointed out to me, on Sunset and La Brea, major intersection, you have a palm tree that's growing out of the curb, right? And you think that's just a one-off because that's just some crazy shit. Like, how the fuck is a palm tree going to grow out of a curb? How does that happen? You would think at some point somebody from the city says, okay, yeah, a palm tree is growing out of the curb. Let's come over here and cut this and fix the curb or whatever. No, it's just growing out of there. And you wonder, how long has it been going like that? 2 years? And somebody pointed out even worse one across the street from Hollywood High School. Let me pull this up. This is a fucking mess. This is really actually super annoying. Let me see if I can find this. Here we go. I posted this on Twitter earlier. So, let me just play the video. That's a palm tree growing out of the street, and you also have a lot. So we're across the street from Hollywood High School here in Hollywood. Guys, this is Hollywood High School. This is Sunset between Highland and La Brea. This is like, when tourists are going to be around. This is the Olympics in 2028. There's going to be a lot of area where tourists are going to be walking around. And look at the shit we're looking at right here. Look what happens when we give all our money to police, and what happens when we cut street services by like $20 million. Look at the end result here. And believe it or not, we have a fucking palm tree that's growing out of the street. Hold on. All right. Fix that. It's not even growing out of the curb. It's growing out of the street. They got a palm tree growing out of the street. Just some fucking random ass palm tree growing out of the street. And you also have a lot of garbage too. You also have a lot of garbage. This is Karen Bass. This is LA. This is Hugo's Hollywood. But they talk about street services. We cut street services by about $20 million so we can give the cops a huge pay raise. And this is the result. Again, we have fucking palm trees just randomly growing out of, I guess it's partially growing out of the curb and partially growing out of the street. This is the corner of Mansfield and Sunset. Some wild shit, man. So remember, there's a reason why this stuff happens. And it's just right here. Right? This is last year's budget. We increased the LAPD by 126 million for their pay raises. There's less cops this year than there was last year. So this money is going to pay raises, 126 million, giving them money. Remember, they don't live in LA. They live in everywhere else. 84% of them don't live in LA. So this money, this $126 million, is fleeing LA and going otherwhere. We're subsidizing the surrounding counties and other states. And at the same time, we're cutting sanitation by 18, 19, 20 million, cutting street services by 21 million. This is what happens. This is what defunding the city looks like, which is, again, outrageous. So there's that, right? I would get more in depth with Campos. I just want to go over a few things. I don't want to make this like an hour and an hour and a half, 2 hour stream. I just want to move quickly through a few things. Another thing that's been annoying me lately, and we're going to end up suing over this, I'm going to file a complaint on the chief tonight over it, is, we have CPRAs. We have California Public Records Act, where you can request documents from the LAPD and they have to give them to you. And the fundamental aspect of police oversight requires being able to identify the cops, right? It's highly important that we're able to identify the people who are out there on the street, patrolling the street, who have the power to take your life and your freedom, right? The problem is we have not received an updated roster listing the officers' names, badge numbers, serial numbers, sex, division, so on and so forth. We haven't received those in like over 2 years. And they've been slow rolling them or straight up denying releasing rosters. And we have to have them. So the other night, on Monday night, I was walking, it was on Hollywood Boulevard. I see Kathy is in the chat. She was out there with me. And there was a guy who was pulled over. He was pulled over for, you're not going to believe it, guys, for tints. He's pulled over for tints. Next thing you know, he was pulled out of the car, and then we came walking up. He was about to be handcuffed. And then the cops saw us, and then they decided we're not going to handcuff him. But then they said, can we search your car? And he says he gets pulled over all the time. So he allowed him to search it. And, afterwards he was annoyed. They didn't even give him a ticket or anything. But my thing is that is, while they got consent to search his car. So that makes it constitutional, makes it a legal search. That's legal search. The problem is it violates LAPD policy, because LAPD policy, as since 2021, when it comes to pretextual stops, is they can't just use a minor infraction to pull you over and then try to initiate a further investigation unless they have some other sort of evidence to back it up. Again, having tinted windows is not sufficient reason to escalate it to a search, even if you do get the driver's permission. So actually, let me pull up that video. I want to play a little bit of that, show you the bullshit, because this is important, right? I had a hard time identifying these officers afterwards because we haven't had a new roster released in so long. Let me pull this up. All right, let me play this for a minute. So you see they have him out of the car right here, right? They're patting him down. They saw us and they're like, okay, just go stand against the wall. Every other time, that guy is getting handcuffed. 100% of the time. Every other time. This time, didn't happen. That's what happens when you have somebody there. But they did come over and talk to him and got consent to search the car. So again, that makes it legal, but it's still a problem. A minor traffic infraction shouldn't lead to it.
They were about to handcuff him, and they turned around. Yeah, and then they turned around. They were just getting ready to. And then.
So you see him peeking in the car.
No, I wasn't here. They had a red. I jammed out of here.
Yeah, just going through.
Right here.
Searching the trunk.
When do they ever do a search of a car? But
Let me ask you something. Why? Like, why do you need to search a car simply because over tints? It makes no sense. It's really outrageous. And it's a waste of this person's time. I see this happen to Uber Eats drivers and stuff. And next thing you know, the delivery's fucked up. They're getting a 1-star, orders canceled, just fucks up their night. And they do this all the time. And did it because it's on Hollywood Boulevard. Did it because it's a nice car on Hollywood Boulevard until they have to do a pretextual stop. So the problem is afterwards, I went and got I asked them for their serial number.
hey, what's your serial?
45426, sir. 45410.
All right, so 45426 and 45410. Right, so we have these databases where you can, including Stop LAPD Spying Coalition's Watch the Watchers website, and so I said I'm going to go file a complaint on these guys for a pretextual stop violation. On my way over there, I started looking for. I said, okay, let me look up their serial numbers to see these guys' names. And when I went to look up the serial numbers, nothing came up. Like nothing came up. I'm like, how does nothing come up? And there's a reason for it. So 45426, right? No, this is 44267. So it doesn't come up. And there's a reason for it. This cop, and the other one was 45410. Oh God. What you hate me do that? And nothing came up for 45410. So what that means, guys, is that these cops, when they get hired, they're in a training division. And then once they're done with that, then they become rookies. They go through phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 for the first year. After that, they're considered P1s. These cops are P2s. They're regular police officers. And they're nowhere listed in the databases because the rosters are so outdated. The last one was released before these cops even got hired. They're out here on patrol. They're not even with field training officers, being trained, having supervision. They're out here doing what they want, and we don't know who the fuck they are. Now, I know who they are. I went to the station and confronted my good buddy. I'm joking when I say that. My good buddy, Rand. I don't think they really wanted any smoke last night when I went to go talk to him. So let's see here.
Yeah.
Do you need help?
Yeah, I need to identify 2 cops. You want their serial? You want this?
Whatever you want.
This guy's been there for so many years sitting at the front desk. Why?
45423.
45423.
And 454. I'm sorry. 45426 was the first one.
Okay.
And then 45413.
13.
PD.
When? Okay. Was it today?
No, it was Monday.
Monday.
That's what it sounded like. Yeah.
This one's a different division, like not even close.
Yeah, the
first one.
413 is a different division. It's not Hollywood.
Or is it? Or where was it at? Were they working in special details? This is an ACU. What day was on?
Yeah.
All right, let me get the lineup.
Let me see the picture. I saw that.
I get shown the picture.
Piece of papers.
Anyway, long story short, they ended up giving me the guy's information. But they gave it to me. They didn't have to. Right? Because LAPD policies, they'll find a million different ways of saying, well, once they leave the scene, they no longer have to ID the officer. They gave me the guy's ID because I was just gonna fucking throw a fit in there. I was just gonna, I was gonna lose my shit. It wasn't gonna be worth it. It would look bad for them. It just give me the cops' names. But my thing is, it shouldn't have to be like this. Us cop watchers, people who are trying to hold the police accountable, all we're asking for is, can you give us a way that we can ID these officers? We just want to know who they are. again, we're going to allow somebody to take somebody's life or somebody's freedom, and we don't even know who the fuck they are. And this played on even further into the week because there was a shooting that happened, and to me, it's looking real dirty. Happened over in the Southeast Division, deep in Watts. A man was pulled over. You know, the LAPD said, let me see if I can find this. The LAPD was like, yeah, he got out of the car with a dark object, you know, the whole dark object thing. He got out with a dark object, and there was an officer involved shooting. They shot a guy holding a cell phone. They shot at him at least a dozen times because it looked like there was at least a dozen shell casings on the ground. And they shot this guy up, and he was carrying a cell phone because that's what happens all too fucking often with the LAPD. Let me see if I can find the incident on this. I'll pull this up. Yeah, this will work right here. So yeah, it says on March 14, 2025 at 10:20 p.m., Southeast Patrol Division uniform officers observed a vehicle driving erratically and conducted a traffic stop on Imperial Highway east of Broadway. From behind the vehicle doors, the officers ordered the driver, later identified as 35-year-old Mario Sanchez, to lower his windows and to place his hands outside his vehicle. Okay, so how do we escalate to this, guys? You see somebody driving erratically, whatever that means, right? Changing lanes without using signals or driving fast, whatever. Why are you ordering them out of the car? Put your hands out the window? What the fuck is this? I mean, I know why they're doing this. Is standard business for a lot of these cops, but why? I'm going to tell you right now, if I go over onto Beverly and, you know, wherever, La Cienega or something like that, some 50-year-old lady driving a Jaguar is wearing her pearls, it's not happening to her. It's not happening to her when she drives erratically. And trust me, they're driving erratically over there. But somehow this person is ordered to put his hands outside the vehicle, outside the window. And they're standing behind the doors, which makes me think that they have their guns pulled. They have, it's a felony stop. Sanchez yells profanities at the officers and moments later exited the driver's door. Sanchez faced the officers, removed a dark object from his waistband area, and quickly pointed it at them, resulting in an officer-involved shooting. So his actions resulted in the police shooting him. That's what they're saying here. Okay, I cannot wait to see the body camera video for this because listen, you never know what's going to happen. Maybe he did just point it like it's a gun or something like that. But what if he pointed like he was filming him? He's probably thinking, man, I'm being pulled over this stuff, and I'm having guns pulled on me and stuff. Whatever. They shot him. They shot up that car. Like I said, they shot at him at least a dozen times. He was shot in the head too. He was struck by gunfire and collapsed in the roadway. Upon arrival of additional units, an arrest team was formed, and Sanchez was taken into custody. Officers rendered medical aid to Sanchez until arrival of the LAFD personnel. That's bullshit. I don't believe him for a second. Who, after assuming care, transported him to a local hospital where he was pronounced deceased. They killed him. The object Sanchez pointed at the officer at the time of the OIS was later determined to be a cell phone. Later. So he was shot over a cell phone. We've seen this happen before. We see this happen a lot. And so policy says that they're supposed to do what's called a critical incident briefing within 3 days, within 72 hours of this. And they didn't. In fact, 11 days later, as of Tuesday, they still hadn't done a briefing. And the briefing is supposed to give some basic information, but they're supposed to give the officers' names who were involved with the shooting. The officer that shot him, they're supposed to release his name within 72 hours. And they didn't. So my friend Jason Reedy from a number of different organizations, Stop LAPD Spy Coalition, People's City Council, he fired off some emails, and I think others too, to members of the LAPD commission, asking them, "Hey, where is this stuff at? Where are the names of the officers? How come you haven't released it?" And then he followed up with, at the commission, before the commission meeting even started, he went to the edge like where the podium was, and asked Shields, who seems to be, I'll be careful with this, the most reasonable of the people in the LAPD commission, and asked her, I said, "Hey, Shields, what's going on? How come you haven't released a name yet?" He confronted her, actually. Let me pull that up. He asked her, how come they haven't released a name yet?
Russia. Across the line, man. Oh boy.
Yes.
Trying to get Rasha
Yeah,
Shields to
I
answer.
have full POA and stuff, but I have to do a lot of work there. And so I'll be there anyway, so.
It may be hard to hear what he's saying, but
That's what I did last night, too.
he's asking her, did you get the email? Are you going to give an answer?
I started on that.
You're gonna respond.
As well.
When are you going to release that name?
He's asking McDonald, when are you going to release a name? McDonald's just sitting there looking stupid.
I'm at the police commission meeting, so I won't be able to talk to them. Okay, could you call me maybe around, time I get out?
Probably hard to hear.
Are you guys at City Hall?
You gonna release the name?
Are you guys at City Hall? Oh.
You gonna release the name?
He's asking over and over again, are you going to release the
Okay,
name?
so I want to make sure, I mean, is it
And
gonna go
McDonald's
through,
not
or-
saying anything.
Everybody got your cams on? Got a cam, Fabian?
I mean, you can answer the question. He's asking you a simple question.
Thing, like-
He's a doctor. You releasing the activist needs a cam. Who is she talking to?
When are you releasing
How
the
long
name?
has it been?
She has to have a cam.
11 days. They're supposed to release it within how long?
Wearing a
Exactly.
cam. So we know what she says, who she talks to.
So he didn't want to release it. So then
for briefing.
Shields actually did the right thing and confronted the police chief about the fact of, why haven't you released a name? And the police chief says, well, we set constraints on ourselves in the past, and we don't really have to release it. And Rasha Shields says, actually, your manual says you have to release it within 72 hours. So she called him out, which was surprising, right? And then she asked the police chief, so when are you going to release the names of the officers? And he said April 1st, which is to me a joke, right? So he's going to release it on April Fool's Day, but it's completely arbitrary. He just said first date that popped into his head. But the truth of the matter is they ended up releasing it just hours later. And I credit Jason and whoever else sent in those emails to pressure Rasha Shields to ask these basic questions. So I don't think Rasha Shields understands policing much. I don't. But with that having been said, I think she has shown in the last couple of weeks that when you force her hand, when you confront her, she asks some questions. You know, see me, I told her early on when I first came to my first meeting with her, I was like, listen, you know, she was complaining about some shit that happened around her house. And I told her, I was like, you know, you're going to cover up for these cops. I'm going to come to your fucking neighborhood. I'm going to put some posters up around you. We're going to talk about how you cover up for the LAPD. In fact, you know, maybe start reaching out to members of your firm. You're a partner of the firm. You're a partner at Jones Day. Big law firm. Find out your clients, start reaching out to them and say, hey, you know what? What do you think about the fact that Rasha Shields over here is covering up for the LAPD? I mean, that's what you signed up for this. And I personally think you want to run for office someday. That's what I think. So you want to step into the arena and play big time. This is big time. This is high stakes. So here we are. And, you know, listen, so she's been responsive. You know, like I said, you see her, she confronted the chief with exactly what Jason had brought up. And it also goes to show you that, listen, being involved with stuff like this, even on a micro level, you know, I don't know what your politics are on the national level, but you know, you can have an effect on the local level and do whatever you can, use whatever levers you can. One person right here, Jason, made that shit happen. We got those officers' names, and then, you know, okay, once again, who's that cop? Another great account on Twitter stepped in, had some very high definition pictures of the officers involved, right? But once again, it comes back to, why are you hiding the names of people who have the ability to take lives and liberty? In this case, they killed a guy. And the Chief McDonald was like, you know, we want to delay releasing their names so we can give them, these officers, care. They just killed somebody. You're talking about you need to give them care? What am I missing here? You need to got to give them care. And then you got to hear this shit about, oh, it's, you know, for officer safety. Let me tell you something, guys. When was the last time you heard of an LAPD officer getting killed off duty or some shit because of retaliation? I don't know. I couldn't even tell you anybody. That shit doesn't happen. They talk about that officer safety stuff. They're safe. They're perfectly fine. They just go back to Santa Clarita. It's their own little fortress town. And, you know, nothing's going to happen to them over there. Maybe some forest fires. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to say I was wishing for the Santa Clarita fire. Listen, that's for another time. But it's bullshit. And there's a lot of secrecy that goes on with the LAPD, right? And it's got to stop. They try to hide these officers' names, trying to hide all types of officers' names. I was on a police stop. I was on a live on a police stop where they pulled over a guy who was an Uber black driver. He was wearing his suit. He was gone through a felony stop. Come to find out, oh, yeah, they thought the car was stolen because they entered in the wrong license plate number. And so I get their car. I look at the card, and it says on their card, put in wrong license plate number. So obviously they fucked up. That's a complaint. I go and look up their names. They're not, same thing again. Their names are not on the roster. And what's especially annoying is, so I filed a lawsuit back in November over some post, to understand post. It's in the weeds. But they agreed to settle because they have to, because they're breaking the law. So that's going to cost the city money because it's going to pay my lawyer's legal fees. The city's going to have to pay for that now, just to get basic information that we should have been given anyway, but it's going to cost us money. And I'm going to tell you right now, we have one that we'll be filing next month. It'll be roster related. It's going to be a lawsuit. The city's going to lose it. You know how I know the city's going to lose this? This is such an easy one that's going on. This was a CPRA that was filed years ago where somebody else filed it asking for a specific roster. And they released it. So once they released that roster, that person, they set the precedence that, yes, this isn't privileged information. So what I did is I copied the exact language that they used and sent in a new CPRA with that exact language that they had released in the past, and then they didn't release it to me. So that's just an easy lawsuit. We will win that. But the city is going to have to pay the legal fees for my lawyer for that. And they're going to lose, I'm telling you, we're going to have 15 of these lined up. And they're going to lose every single one of these. It's going to cost the city money, all because they're trying to hide the identities of cops who commit misconduct. It's outrageous. All right, so let's get on to Karen Bass. Oh, God. Karen Bass sucks. Yeah, you guys, if you follow me long enough, you already know how I feel about that. But once again, Karen Bass is doing Karen Bass things. Today, Karen Bass was called in front of the federal judge to talk about her homelessness program. There's a lawsuit that was filed years ago saying that the money that's being allocated to homelessness and being run by the city and the county for homelessness programs don't have proper accountability, aren't efficient, services aren't being supplied, potential fraud and abuse, all that stuff, right? So Judge Carter called Karen Bass in, along with the city attorney, along with Kenneth Mejia, the city controller, along with, I believe, somebody from the county, was it Horvath, called in? I don't know. And wanted an update. And the big story, at least what I consider the big story, was that Karen Bass, her Inside Safe program. Inside Safe is a program where she puts people who are on the street into hotels, and not just anybody into hotels. She's not going by acuity. She's not looking at saying, okay, this is an elderly person living on the street. This is a person with kids living on the street. This is a person who is sick living on the street, and let's put them in a hotel. She's like, no, the NIMBYs in this neighborhood, they don't want these people here. So we're going to use this little strike force, this little task force, to remove this encampment. And we're going to put them in hotels. The bulk of them are just going to leave the hotels eventually, but we're going to get this area closed off so they can't come back. We're just going to force them out of here. The people that do stay in a hotel, we're going to do it in the most inefficient way possible. We're going to pay $4,000 for the hotel for them a month, just for the hotel, some shitty ass hotel, be somewhere like 98th and Figueroa, just roaches and all types of shit. And then, so it's hard to tell how much is actually spent on these programs. We know how much. You can look at the contracts. You can go, if you go to the city clerk's website, you search Inside Safe, you can find the contracts for the hotels. They're charging about $110 per night. I think if they have 2 beds in a room, it's like $125. But they'll have 2 beds in a room. We're paying more for it, but only one person allowed to stay in a room. So it's like, we're stupid. We should be able to negotiate that down. When I looked at some of this stuff, these hotels have all sorts of tax issues and stuff. So they're just looking for getting any money in the city off their back, right? Some of these hotels aren't even hotels. It's rent-controlled apartments that have been illegally converted to hotels, and the city is paying them 3 times the amount they would get through rent control if they were doing things legally. But the problem is it's not just the $4,000 we're spending on the hotels. It's the additional $13,000 we're spending towards services that we're giving to these nonprofits to run the program, who are supposed to give out, cards so they can get food. The one around my house, a few blocks away from here, the Inside Safe location, they give them $100 a week. They give them a $100 gift card a week. Now, let me tell you something. If you're living out in the street, right, you don't have a kitchen, right? So you're relying on fast food. How long is that $100 going to last you? Seriously, how long is that $100? 2 days, 3 days? If you're just relying on eating Burger King or whatever, like, $100 doesn't last a week. And from my understanding, people I've talked to, they see those workers who are handing out those $100 cards. They find them on the other side of the city cashing them shits in themselves, but there's no oversight to look over it. So because of that, when I look back about a year and a half ago, you were able to calculate what the all-in costs were. Figured out it was $17,000 per month for each person in the program. $4,000 goes to the hotel. $13,000 goes towards the supposed wraparound care, which does not exist. Which does not exist. It's going into these nonprofits' pockets. They're getting fucking filthy rich off this shit. This program was created. The test case was St. Joseph's out in the West Side. The lady who ran that, Kellum, she said, Karen Bass says, I'm going to make you the head of LASA. That's the Homeless Industrial Complex Slush Fund. Put her as the head of LASA. They did an audit on that, and they said, this is all fucked up. There's no sort of accounting. Billions of dollars are going this, and there's no counting to find out if it's, what's going on. She created this Inside Safe program. She was hired by Karen Bass when she first got into office, paid her $60,000 for 6 weeks, first 6 weeks, just for her to create this Inside Safe program, gave all her friends and cronies contracts. It's just all fucked up. And according to the city controller's website, we spent $367 million on it so far, and we have permanently housed, of those people, 878 people. $367 million and permanently housed 878 people. Where the fuck is the money at? That's a good question, right? Where did the money go? And that's what Kenneth Mejia wanted to do. He wanted to audit Inside Safe. And Karen Bass and that little troll doll, Heidi Feldstein Soto went in front of the judge today and said, no, Kenneth Mejia, he doesn't have the right to audit Inside Safe. He doesn't have the right to audit Inside Safe. Technically, under the rules, he can't audit another elected official. Why the fuck not? And here's what's most important. Why are you against the city controller auditing your program? Do you have something to hide? Are you afraid of what it's going to show? Because you are. Because we all know it's full of grift. It's all scam. It's a slush fund. The problem is she's reduced funding for other homelessness programs to fund this inefficient program. And she said in some of her early paperwork, this was meant to reduce visible homelessness, which means, listen, we just don't want to see you over here in this more affluent area. We want you away from here, from the 101 and the Coanga. We don't want the people seeing this who are going to the Hollywood Bowl. This is happening less over in South LA. And now you don't want Kenneth Mejia, the city controller. Listen, the city controller, who, by the way, got more votes than you. You guys ran in the same election. He got more votes than you. You don't want him to audit your program? How is that in the public interest? My thing is, any program or anything, any endeavor, any business, don't you want to sit there every once in a while and take a look and say, okay, what's working, what's not, what's efficient, what is inefficient, where is the waste at? To make it more efficient. Maybe if you were auditing properly, we wouldn't have spent $367 million to permanently house 878 people in this shit program. But she does not want Kenneth Mejia auditing it. And again, it's outrageous. It's not in our interest. You know whose interest it is? It's in Karen Bass's interest to shield oversight of this program. And I've been calling from I'll be honest with you, from day one, I've been screaming about this. I have confronted Karen Bass and Heidi Feldstein Soto to their face directly over this, about them not providing oversight of Inside Safe. I've confronted Krikorian. I've confronted Heather Hutt. Why aren't you providing any oversight of Inside Safe? And nobody. I've confronted Hugo. Hugo has wrapped his arms around Inside Safe. How great! I was in a neighborhood council meeting when Hugo's representative was in there and was talking about, we're having, a tough budget this year, but thankfully we are able to fund Inside Safe. Inside Safe has taken money from other homelessness programs and put it into Inside Safe, which is the least efficient program of all time. And I've been saying from the beginning, what's going to happen is people are going to look at it and say, okay, this is bullshit. Let's defund this Inside Safe program for good reason. But then they're going to say, you know what, we're not even going to try anything new because, we tried. Guys, we tried Inside Safe. It didn't work. There's no answer for this. So we give up. Let's just, homeless people, let's just arrest them. Just arrest all of them. Let's just load up the jails. Jails are already overcrowded. So let's just load up the jails with homeless people. And you know what the end result of that is, right? It's already overcrowded, but you start forcing them into the jail system. You're going to have somebody get released who's not in there for petty crimes. Maybe a child attacker. Maybe somebody who committed sexual assault. And the sad part is, people talk shit about Gascon, but he had his program, his bail programs and stuff. His whole thing is, listen, you get arrested, it's your first offense, it's a petty crime. Why are we going to keep you in jail for 6 months and now you lose your job, probably lose your apartment? Then you get off or whatever and you're out in the world, but you lost everything. And what are you going to do? You resort to crime. Maybe we shouldn't, because rich people don't have an issue. They make bail. Somebody who doesn't have the money or the means does not make bail. But the data shows that the recidivism for those people that were released is lower. And that crime literally went down. These programs that he had were a success. But I digress. on that. Don't get me started. I will say this about Gascon. Gascon is the only politician I have talked to, confronted face to face, that he didn't run away. He answered the questions. And then he said, make sure you follow my chief of staff. I get home. I didn't give her my information. Chief of staff reached out to me and sent me a message. So, I mean, so it's sort of a shame to see him go. How long are we going on here? 55 minutes. I'm about to cut this off short. My thing is I haven't done these in so long. And I always wanted to do these podcasts earlier in the day, because like right now it's late as hell. It's 10 something, it's 1 o'clock in the morning in the East Coast and stuff. I would much rather do these at like 6 or 7 at night. It just never happens. I just end up getting caught up with stuff, and then it reaches 8:30, 9 o'clock, and I'm like, fuck, it's too late now. I don't feel like doing it. I'm half asleep. So I would like to do these earlier. Hopefully I can find a way to do it. Nothing that ends up happening is like, okay, I'm going to do these. I'm going to talk about this issue. And then next thing you know, I'm getting messages and there's some other fucking scandals going on. And I get overwhelmed. I'm like, man, you guys, I wanted to talk about this, but now this new stuff is coming up and I start researching it and then it ends up being too late. So yeah, that's where we're at. So I'm going to do my best to wait, I gotta pull this up. Let's pull this up. What is Charles Patrick saying? Here's my guy. Elias has also reported on an ethics breach at the agency involving LAS's top executive. I don't know how to pronounce her name. Valicia Adams Kellum, signing a $2.1 million contract with her husband's employer. This is correct. She gave her husband a contract. And like I said, people get rich off of homelessness. The sad part is we have probably 45,000 people on the street, at least. LASA's out with their new numbers. I don't believe a damn fucking thing they have to say. And nobody should. The judges are saying don't believe their shit. Just don't even listen to them. LASA does not need to exist. Right now, they are looking at proposals to have the city say, you know what? Let's handle this our own. Let's not work with LASA. So LASA is a sort of this run by the city and the state, and it's sort of a private entity. It's designed in a way that you could put money into it, but then there's no way to track it, and then nobody has real authority to have oversight of it. So now we have this judge who's doing oversight, and he has said that it's all fucked up. Anyway, long story short, with Karen Bass, let me come back to this real quick before I end this. The judge did say that Karen Bass and Kenneth Mejia have to figure this out, work together on an audit, or he may put it into receivership, put all these homelessness programs into receivership, which I'm fine with, man. We can't Karen Bass is untrustworthy. If it weren't for Kenneth Mejia right now, guys, this city, we wouldn't even know half the problems we have. We should be very thankful. I don't care where you're at on the political spectrum. I don't care if you're a leftist. I don't care if you're progressive. I don't care if you're a moderate. I don't care if you're a Republican, conservative, MAGA, right-winger, all that shit. You should be happy that Kenneth Mejia is the only goddamn adult in City Hall who has been sounding the alarm on this shit for years, predicting the crisis that we're in this city. We have a $1 billion deficit, guys. We have a $1 billion deficit. I was expecting our deficit to be like 500 million, something like that. No, 1 billion. How the hell are we going to fix this? So Karen Bass is up in Sacramento begging the governor and the legislature for money. And in a lot of ways, listen, I feel like, man, we don't deserve a bailout. Now, I think we have to because, I'm against old people not getting their food. I'm against cutting programs for poor kids who need breakfast and stuff like that. But we don't deserve it because at the end of the day, this money, I feel like our tax base is sufficient to meet our needs in LA. But so much of it just goes to grift and scamming. Like I said, when I see nonprofit, guys, you should just automatically be skeptical. I'm going to tell you right now, be skeptical of all nonprofits. I'm not saying all nonprofits are corrupt, but I'm saying you should be automatically be skeptical. You know, another thing is you see, I'm not going to talk too much of this, something that somebody's working on, but I will say this. When you see these nonprofits get these contracts, look them up and see if they're even in good standing. Some of them are getting contracts and these nonprofits are defunct. If you look at the contracts, what the services they're supposed to provide, there's no real, like, I don't know, there's no way of deciding what success is. Just like, oh, here's the money. Yeah, just figure it out. You know, who wants to give out to these people? You got a lot of scammers out here. Let's just give Najee Ali a couple $100,000 and say, you know what you can't, if you don't know who he is. And, anyway, let me pull up another one and see what else we got here. Do we have anything else here? Let's see. You talk like you have a city planning or social work degree, and that's damn impressive. Love your explanation on systemic issues. Listen, my background is in finance. I have nothing, you know, but in like middle market corporate finance, not this, nothing to do with this. This, I mean, honestly, we overcomplicate some of this stuff. This is like, a lot of this is basic shit, basic common sense shit, right? I mean, it's a numbers game. We spend a lot of money on these programs and we get very little in return. So it's broken. Again, if we're paying $367 million into Inside Safe program, we're only getting 878 people permanently housed. It tells you something needs to be adjusted at a minimum. And so you need to look at the numbers, you need to do a deep dive, you need to do an audit and find out what's efficient and what's not, and then you can adjust. If you're going to refuse to adjust, well, first off, that's just, again, it's not in the best interest of the taxpayer, of the citizenry, and it tells you that you're unserious. You don't actually want to maximize getting the best results possible. That's not a priority to you. Your priority is, I don't want to have a political scandal because I don't want to lose re-election. And we can't do that, man. We can't do that. We can't. I've had enough of it. William, have you thought about running for XYZ so you can make a change from the inside? I have thought about it, but I also know that, like, I'm kind of unelectable. I said a lot of stuff on video and stuff. I have thought about it. I would, if under the right circumstances, but man, there'd be some huge headwinds. First off, I have all these, the unions would hate me. So I'd have to run against the unions, have to run against all the entrenched forces, because every existing politician would hate me. Because like I said, I'll go in there, I'll come into those backroom meetings wearing a body camera. I'll be like, yeah, we're going to let everybody see what kind of fucking deals you guys are working on. What's live streaming? Everybody was live streaming while you're talking. Hey, Marquise, we're going to have you talking to this lobbyist. We're going to have it all live. Let's just stream it onto the internet. I mean, I would just be that person. I'd be like, I'm not coming in there to like do massive policy changes. I'm trying to expose all the goddamn fuckery. So having that attitude works against you. Then I have those douchebags over at the DSA who just, because they're just some real scumbags. And then, of course, I'd have my good friends at the Church of Scientology who would find a way to get involved with it. But I would, they don't impress me. I think they're pretty damn weak. All right. So, let's see here. CPAB should be renamed PAB since community is no longer allowed to be involved. So that's a fight we're going to be having in the next couple of days. Myself, Audit LA, and others went over to the CPAB meeting. CPAB meeting is just essentially, it's a meeting between the police department and the community representatives that the police decides who are the representatives on this board, right? The police is choosing which community members. And these are a bunch of disconnected assholes who have no idea what's going on out there. And they have these meetings, and you can sometimes give public comment. And there's a lot of stuff that's been going on, the Hollywood division, Northeast division, and they had a CPAB meeting, but all of a sudden they canceled at the last minute. And now the Hollywood division is saying, well, we're not going to do CPAB meetings for the public anymore. Instead, we're going to do a coffee with a cop, which is bullshit, right? Because their bylaws specifically say that their meetings should be held monthly or at most bi-monthly and should generally be open to the public unless the captain has some like sort of reason that that individual meeting should not be made public. So, but standard course should be public. Well, he's saying, no, he doesn't want to be in public anymore. He doesn't want to deal with all the crap. I mean, there's a lot of things going on. Like I said, Hollywood divisions are going to have a scandal going on. There's an issue right now with black cops leaving the police station. They're getting racially profiled. So it's not just, black people in the community are getting pulled over. Even their own cops are getting pulled over by other cops, black cops. And the black cops, from my understanding, are sick of it. From my understanding, one of them has already just transferred out recently. He's like, this is fucking bullshit. So that whole scandal is going on. That's going to become something. That's going to be something that's going to end up in the paper at some point. Remember where you heard it first. And so they don't want to face the community. They don't want to face it with some Scientology shit going on. They just don't want to face it. And this guy's a coward. The captain's a coward. He's not going to win this fight. I'll take it to his ass. I think I'm not a fan of this. First off, he's an ex-Rampart cop. You know how I feel. I have a thing for Rampart. I have a thing for Rampart, especially since that Rampart was a huge scandal. And the real story of Rampart is how the cops got away with it. How most of the cops got away with it. How nobody was really held accountable. How a lot of people in Rampart are like running shit behind the scenes today in the LAPD. Have some of the top, one of the guys, Rampart cops, I'm seeing them about to get, these commendations from the police chief and the LAPD commission for perimeter control during an incident. It's like, I can't take it. I can't take it. But politicians, let's say this. Politicians don't want to do town halls anymore. They only care about community engagement. And that's another thing, because I was talking to somebody about, I'd say the most reasonable person on city council is Eunice Hernandez, right? Somebody, I was friends with Eunice at one point. I thought, she's got 4 boxers. You know me. I'm a boxer person. How am I going to be against somebody who has 4 boxers, right? But she lied to me about some shit. And when it comes to policing, you're going to lie to me. I'm going to have a problem with that. And I confronted her about it at the MLK parade. And she started literally running. I'm like, how are you going to be a politician running? I would never want to get caught. Just face the music. Answer the questions. You're better off saying something than saying nothing or running away. Running away is the worst. Karen Bass, at one time when she was confronted over the fire, she just sat there looking dumb. That's a bad look. Just bite the bullet and answer the damn questions. I wish more politicians would just deal with it. Just deal with it. Don't be afraid of losing your reelection. Go into office saying, I don't expect to win a reelection. It's not about that. But I don't know, man. I don't know. It's kind of frustrating. Anyway, guys. All right. It's been an hour and 8 minutes. That's enough for tonight. There'll be some shit going on. There won't be LAP commission meeting next week because they've already canceled it. And I have a feeling why, because they know. There's a lot of shit going to go down. I'm going to tell you right now, even though you don't see me, I haven't been on here, there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes. And I think the way that myself and others around me, our strategy for taking on the LAPD is going to be really effective right now. I think that they don't know what's coming. They don't know what's coming. And I'm obviously not going to say it right now what's coming. But I think that we're in a position where I think Jim McDonald, I think your bitch ass should be a little afraid. That's what I think. I think what's coming for Jim McDonald, he's going to get run over. We are going to run over your ass, and you're not going to be able to deal with it. Because first off, he's a dinosaur from another time. He wants to go back to 1980s policing. He doesn't know how to adapt to the times. He doesn't know how to adapt to. Listen, we'll run over him with this internet stuff. There's things that we are doing that I think is going to make it impossible for the LAPD commission to not react and do something. So I think I'd say, things are going to happen in the next month or two, but there are things. I'm always thinking long term, guys. I think about strategies like literally 12 months in advance, 18 months in advance, knowing I gotta be patient. I've been doing this for 5 years, right? And there are things that I've set up 5 years ago that I'm still working on. But I think we're reaching a point right now. We're about to have this breaking point. I think that I think there's a lot of internal shit in the LAPD. Those guys, there is a war in the LAPD. It's like half of command staff versus the other half of command staff. They can't fucking stand each other. I get a lot of information because it's fine with me. It's fine with me. Just keep on hey guys, keep on sending them stuff my way. I can't keep up with the leaks. I wake up, I'm like, oh man, what is this message here? Oh, this person's fighting with that person, this person. But I think there are some people that help me out that are highly reliable and in the know. And I think like I said, Jim McDonald, your bitch ass. I hope you're ready because you're gonna be put through it. And listen, Rasha Shields, just keep on doing what you're doing, and I won't have to put any posters around your house. Like I said, I have this chalkboard. The next time we talk, we're gonna have some email addresses and stuff, right? We're gonna list like Rasha Shields' email and Souther's email and the new OIG email and his assistant's email and the executive director of the LAPD Commission's email and the chief's email and certain captains, commanders' email. And I'm gonna encourage people to reach out and just let them know what they think about things. We're going to really kind of organize things. And just for the cherry on top, just to make their lives, who wants to get 30 fucking emails telling them how they're a piece of shit, But like I said, Chief McDonald, I'm not a fan of yours. I can't believe that I'm looking back at Chief Moore. I'm like, wow, this guy was way better and he was a piece of shit. That was like my arch nemesis. And yeah. All right, guys, that's enough for tonight. You guys take care. I'm going to try to make it on tomorrow. I'm going to try to make it on tomorrow earlier. And you take care and enjoy yourself. And lastly, fuck Karen Bass.